Chapter 98, 30 Heavenly and Earthly Vertical and Horizontal Formation. Secondly, I want Xiong's head, Gu Hai said in a deep voice. Not far away, Xiong's entire body exploded with sweat. How dare you? King Shikong roared steeply. Gu Hai, however, stared at Xiong with a gloomy face, watching Xiong's face change wildly. I'm an official of the Great Yuan. Gu Hai, you dare, you dare. Xiong shouted angrily. Gu Hai's gaze was still cold, and that look was filled with hatred. The hatred of killing his wife. It was not shared. Wanting Xiong's head, related to the Great Formation. Emperor Shu said in a deep voice. Related, right? He killed my wife. That's why I came. To use his head, to sacrifice the formation. To avenge my wife's death, Gu Hai said in a deep voice. Oh, Great Emperor Shu's eyes narrowed as he twisted his head to look at Xiong. I didn't, Your Majesty. I didn't kill it. It was that guard of mine. That guard has already been killed by Gu Hai. Has already been killed by him. He also killed the Eastern Eighth, Xiong immediately exclaimed. At this moment, even a fool could see that Great Emperor Shu cared very much about everything within the Great Killing Palace. And now, Gu Hai was the key to being able to enter the Great Killing Palace. Gu Hai was going to use this condition to buy Shu's life. A person who was inconsequential to Great Emperor Shu, and a treasure that Great Emperor Shu was determined to obtain, which was more important. It is clear at a glance. Above the square, almost all officials stopped talking. If replaced with Mr. Mo, the officials will still plead for mercy, after all. Cannot be because of the ancient sea and damage the prestige of Daiwan. But Xiong is different, countless infamous. In Daiwan do not know how many things that hurt the sky. In this official. And even some of them have been bullied by it. At this moment heard the words of Gu Hai. But it is a great pleasure in general. Your wife, Humph, Gu Hai. I don't care who your wife is. Xiong has already said that he didn't kill her. And you want to frame my son again. King Shikong glared angrily. If I say it's him, it's him. Gu Hai's face was gloomy. After saying that, he didn't pay any attention to King Shikong, and instead looked at Great Emperor Shu. Great Emperor Shu. This is my only condition, Gu Hai said in a deep voice. Your Majesty. It can't be. It's impossible for Gu Hai to set up a great formation. King Shikong immediately exclaimed. Your Majesty, spare your life. Xiong also shrieked. Great Emperor Shu glanced at Gu Hai and didn't immediately agree, but instead said indifferently, this matter will be discussed after your great formation succeeds. Huyu. Xiong suddenly let out a long breath. He was really afraid that His Majesty would just agree and then put himself to death. However, King Shikong's face changed, indicating that Great Emperor Shu's heart was moved. It would be fine if Gu Hai couldn't succeed, but if he could. Many thanks to Great Emperor Shu. Gu Hai, however, took a deep breath and nodded. You set up the grand formation, and Mo Yaika will accompany you throughout. Great Emperor Shu said in a deep voice. Thank you, Your Majesty. Mo Yaik, however, smiled. Gu Hai looked at Mo Yaik and said, good. Many thanks, Mr. Gu. Mo Yaik also said gratefully. I will only give you 8 days, Great Emperor Shu said in a deep voice. Metropolis parties, full cooperation. 8 days is enough, Gu Hai nodded. Great Emperor Shu nodded. Mo Yaik. Execute my token and deploy all resources in the entire city to cooperate with Gu Hai. All officials, fully cooperate with Mo Yaik. Anyone who dares to disobey will be punished for treason. Great Emperor Shu ordered. I obey the decree. The civil and military officials immediately responded by drinking. Gu Hai nodded. The palace opened up a floating island for Gu Hai's office. Mo Yaika quickly arranged for people to dispatch spirit stones, 30 billion top-grade spirit stones. This was a mountainous amount. Gu Hai started on the floating island, looking across the city. and began to arrange the spirit stone point burial locations. Great Emperor Shu looked at Gu Hai on the floating island, raised his head, and looked at the great killing palace in the sky again, flung out his sleeves and slowly walked back to the great jade palace. Mr. Dongfang stood in the square and looked at Gu Hai deadpan for a while before slowly retreating back to the other great hall. Bat Ancestor's face was grim. He revealed a cold smile when he looked at Gu Hai. And at this moment, the mountain villa that Gu Hai had bought, Li Shenji was wide-eyed. Just now, when Gu Hai exited the mountain villa, Li Shenji thought that he was going to get help from the Night Divine Guard, but he didn't want Gu Hai to go straight to the Great Joy Hall. Looking at that expression, it was as if Gu Hai was asking for Xiong's head in front of Great Emperor Shu. Gu Hai, is he crazy? Isn't this looking for death? But the result was that instead of blaming Gu Hai, Emperor Shu also deployed the civil and military officials for Gu Hai to use. Did he hit a bad spot? In the distance, on top of another floating island, Long Shenwu and Gong Yongsheng also frowned at this bizarre scene. Dayuan officials, why are they being deployed by Gu Hai? Gong Yongsheng frowned. Long Shenwu was also silent for a while, by chance. Gong Yongsheng. The most depressing thing for Gong Yongsheng now was hearing Gu Hai's happenstance. It was by chance that Gu Hai found himself trapped. It was by chance that he found himself. It was by chance that Gu Hai found the entrance to the Grand Formation that he couldn't find, and now it's still by chance. In the past, in the 100 longevity peach tree, Gu Hai had already comprehended the 30 heavens and earth vertical and horizontal Grand Formation, so naturally, he was not unfamiliar with the arrangement. Metropolis looked at it carefully and started drawing the drawings. On the side, Mo Yaika, however, after arranging the matters, carefully watched from the sidelines amidst. Mr. Gu, what can I help you with? Mo Yaik politely said. I'll draw the drawings first. Mr. Mo, find some spiritually awake people, turn around and be responsible for burying the spirit stones. Just don't make any mistakes, Gu Hai solemnly said. That's natural, Mo Yaika nodded. I'll draw the map later. If you don't understand anything you can ask me, Gu Hai solemnly said. Mo Yaik's eyes lit up, and he instantly said gratefully, then thank you, Mr. Gu. There is one thing that I would like to ask for Mr. Mo's help. Oh, I want the treasures left behind by old Mangwanchi. Your Daiwan Imperial Dynasty is not far from the Thousand Islands Sea. The loss of old Mangwanchi's refining treasures in the heavenly remnant realm the past years. I'm sure Daiwan has harvested quite a lot of them as well, right? I want these types of treasures, as many as there are, as much as I want. Please trouble Mr. Mo to arrange for someone to collect them for me, Gu Hai solemnly said. Mo Yaik was slightly stunned, and finally nodded. Don't worry, Mr. Gu. I will do everything I can. My 4 great clans. Each one of them treasures some, however. Now that His Majesty said that he is fully cooperating with you, I think it won't be difficult to come with them. Many thanks, Gu Hai solemnly said. I'm just going along for the ride. Mr. Gu is polite. Mo Yaika laughed. Gu Hai shook his head and wasn't more polite. At the moment Gu Hai was still in a very sad mood and didn't have much to say. Mo Yaik could also feel that sad atmosphere of Gu Hai and didn't say much either. King Shikong's mansion. Father, what to do? That Gu Hai wants to kill me, Jiong said with a wave of panic. HMPH, you did this. Who told you to assassinate him? King Shikong knocked over a vase and instantly said angrily, I didn't think it would be like this. Or, why don't we send another person and kill him when he's not paying attention? Xiong said with a hint of anticipation. You're crazy, King Shikong instantly roared. You want to die? I don't want to die yet. Gu Hai right now is simply within His Majesty's surveillance. How dare you assassinate him? At that time, it's not that my father can't protect you. My father will also be implicated, King Shikong instantly roared. Then what now? Xiong anxiously said. You flee. The further away you flee, the better, and wait for this gust to pass, King Shikong anxiously said. Just as King Shikong finished speaking, the holy decree has arrived. A eunuch arrived at King Shikong's residence. The duo's faces changed, and they quickly greeted him. King Shikong receives the decree. His Majesty has decreed that Xiong is stubborn, leading to more than just trouble. King Shikong, as his father, has the responsibility of not investigating. From this moment onwards, Xiong is not allowed to go out in the king's mansion to face the wall and reflect on himself. King Shikong is responsible for monitoring. Admirable, the old eunuch droned. King Shikong and Xiong immediately changed their faces. Long live His Majesty. King Shikong received the holy decree. The old eunuch handed out the imperial decree and left, while King Shikong held the imperial decree as if it weighed 1,000 pounds. Father, what does His Majesty mean by this? Xiong said in alarm. You're not allowed to go out. I'll go find Mr. Dongfang to find out. King Shikong's face was gloomy as he said. Xiong was in a state of shock and fear for a day before King Shikong came back again. Father, what's the word? Xiong worriedly said. I've inquired with Mr. Dongfang, and Mr. Dongfang said that it's impossible for Gu Hai to succeed. So let's not worry. King Shikong took a deep breath and said, Why? It's just a big lie that Gu Hai put up. How could Gu Hai possibly know the 30 heavens and earth vertical formation? It's just something he said blindly. Where did he learn it from? Besides, Mr. Dongfang said that it's impossible to succeed in comprehending the 30 heavens and earth vertical and horizontal grand formation in anything other than 10 years or 8 years, and he knew one of the 9 sons of chess observation who once described it to him. At Gu Hai's age, it's absolutely impossible to succeed. King Shikong let out a long breath. Really? Then when Gu Hai can't succeed after 7 days, then isn't he dead? Xiong's eyes steeply lit up. King Shikong nodded. Hey haha. Good. I don't want to leave either. I want to see how Gu Hai dies. I'll see how he dies, Xiong said with a scowl on his face. 8 days passed in a flash. Gu Hai spent 2 days drawing the map, 2 days instructing a large number of generals to point and bury 30 billion top-grade spirit stones, and 2 days by a large number of generals to do so. In the last 2 days, a full review was done, with the entire city working together. This efficiency was also extremely fast. On top of the floating island, more than 100 crates and boxes were placed in front of Gu Hai. Mr. Gu, these are all the treasures that Old Man Chess Viewer refined in the past. Only these treasures have varying efficacies and are not powerful magic treasures. Would you check? Mo Yaika laughed. Many thanks, Mr. Mo. I'm relieved that Mr. Mo is doing something. Gu Hai probed his hand and collected all the chests and boxes into the storage magic treasure, and did not inspect them. Mo Yaika smiled and nodded. Mr. Gu, His Majesty is already waiting at the entrance of the Great Joy Hall. It's been 8 days. Is it ready to be opened? Mo Yaika smiled. Gu Hai turned his head to look at Emperor Xu and the group of ministers at the entrance of the Dayuya Hall. It was almost the same personnel as 8 days ago. It was just that Xiong was missing. Gu Hai frowned slightly. Xiong is at the Shikong King's mansion, Mo Yaika said. Gu Hai turned his head to look. However, he saw a floating island above the Shikong King's mansion. Xiong and the guard with the broken arm were staring at Gu Hai in death. It's been 8 days. Gu Hai, I'll see how you die later after teasing His Majesty, Xiong said with a scowl on his face. In the distance, Gu Hai's eyes narrowed slightly as he nodded. All right, let's begin.